elections and the registration of elections. We don't need to be going back to the days, especially where a poll tax was required in order for people to vote. It's the reason you see the Congressional Black Caucus issuing letters across the United States to secretaries over the weekend, urging them not to comply with this request. You don't have to be from Kentucky, Thomas, to know that this smells like horse manure. The timing of which, very suspect. The rapid request that they had for this information over the course of 2 weeks, despite the president being in office since January. There's simply not foundational evidence, and especially experts and studies agree, to back up what the president has claimed. And what they're seeking to do is to create a national voter registry. This all during this past week, when we see a president who is insecure about the loss of the popular vote start his campaign for re-election at his own Trump hotel, defund the Election Assistance Commission, and in the same breath ask every Secretary of State across this nation for the party affiliation, the voting history, and the Social Security numbers of registered voters across the United States.
And
this
Secretary,
just doesn't smell right.
We have the New York Times putting out this whole list of those states that are refusing to do so, of turning over this because they are bound by law not to release this information. But the planned federal database is already being described as really a gold mine for hackers. Do you have trust? I mean, because you obviously, within Kentucky, you are trusted to keep this voter information secure and safe. But do you trust it if it were to get in the hands of the federal government and how they're trying to collect it?
I don't, Thomas, and neither do secretaries of state across this nation. Not only do we have an overreach by the federal government into a domain that is left particularly to the states, sensitive information that you wouldn't want in the public domain, but there's no assurance in this request that this information would be kept confidential. We know this administration has had trouble governing since January and actually keeping information confidential, but the website that they wanted you to upload this information to, an unsecure website. We might as well just hand over millions of records from Kentuckians, billions from across this nation, to foreign actors that really want to continue to meddle in our elections. It's not something that I'm willing to do as the chief election official from Kentucky. And as you can see, my counterparts across the nation, they're following Kentucky's lead, even all the way down there in Mississippi, telling the administration they can go jump in the Gulf of Mexico.
Yeah. I want to shift topics real quickly, though, because of Mitch McConnell, the work that he's doing on the health care bill that seems to have stalled on the Senate side. And Connect has been very successful. However, Kentuckians voted for the new governor to disband this exchange. You went up against Mitch McConnell in a race for his seat. He was able to hold you off and stay within that seat and stay within his position of power. What do you make of his strategy right now and what they're doing on the Hill when it comes to the ACA and this idea from Trump, just go ahead and repeal it, we'll figure out a replace later now?
Well, he's having trouble managing his own caucus. He's having trouble living up to the promises that he made to try to get reelected. Repealing, root and branch, those were phrases that I've heard since 2013. They're phrases the American public has heard. Repeal and replace very quickly. But what the Republican Party, and especially Leader McConnell and our president, are finding trouble is that it's a little bit harder to govern. Complicated is how they've described health care, and it is. In the state of Kentucky, we're talking about over 400,000 people, nearly 500,000 Kentuckians who have benefited because of expanded Medicaid. They are literally choosing between making sure they can pay for their medicines, to stay alive, to pay their mortgage bills. This is not something that we want to roll back. We want to risk lives. We want to put not only Kentuckians but Americans in an insecure and unsafe position.
Allison Lundergan Grimes, Kentucky Secretary of State, thank you so much. And I'm sure there are bourbon makers in Kentucky that are going to try to meet up to your challenge for the demand. Obviously, what you say, not being enough bourbon in Kentucky to make this happen. Thank you so much for coming on today. I really appreciate your time. Nice to see you.
Thank you, Thomas.
All right, so U.S. Marshals, they've arrested a suspect in connection to that